Born into criminal royalty, Kaori with her brother were leading a Japanese crime organization, the Seventh Moon, as equals. However, with plans of setting up an international presence in America, several insecure underlings decided to start a violent coup, which ended in her brother's sacrifice in order to save her life. Given this precious opportunity, she was able to escape to the US, and after a miscommunication, she now takes up her brother's name, Yamato. Her wish in the ritual is to make the Seventh Moon powerful enough to take over all of New York. In-game, Yamato is a close-ranged fighter, able to grapple onto enemies from afar to get up close and personal even if they are only seen for 1 millisecond. Once in the fight, she can both sustain and deal tons of damage with a single fully charged strike. She can then, infusing herself with her brother's soul, reset all of her cooldowns and becoming an unstoppable beast. She is definitely a foe to be reckoned with on the Cursed Apple. Relentless, acrobatics, pursuer, welcome to the Yamato Hero Spotlight. Yamato's weapon is the Sister's Lament. With its primary fire, you shoot several pellets at a somewhat fast fire rate, decent for securing / dying. But instead of the usual zoom in like with most weapons in Deadlock, she has a special ult fire with a single projectile that explodes on impact, which is great for poking and applying items like Mystic Shot and Spirit Shredder shots. However, it uses 3 shots in your clip, so keep that in mind when you're in the laning phase. Yamato's first ability is Power Slash. She first channels, charging up over time and gaining 60% bullet resistance. Once reaching 100%, she then releases a fully charged Sword Strike forward, dealing high spirit damage. Pressing the ability again or fire will trigger the slash early, dealing partial damage depending on how much was charged. The earliest the attack can be released is the first pip and it deals 30% damage. Charging until the second pip brings it up to 50% damage, so release it early if your target is about to dip behind cover. Yamato's second ability is Flying Slash, a single target skill that lets you grapple onto an enemy and reel yourself towards them, dealing light melee damage and slowing the target when you arrive. However, just be aware that this ability is really buggy and sometimes it breaks or you get put into the Shadow Realm. Really good ability when it works though. Yamato's third ability is Crimson Slash, slashing an AoE in front of you, dealing spirit damage and slowing their fire rate. If any enemy heroes are hit, you also heal a flat amount. Beware of another bug where if you cast it straight above or below you, the hitbox for its ability kinda disappears. Yamato's ultimate is Shadow Transformation. She becomes invincible for a moment, instantly refreshing her abilities while also making them 60% faster. For a short amount of time, she becomes immune to negative status effects like stuns and silences, and gains bullet and spirit resist. During this state, whenever Yamato gets a hero kill, she heals for a percentage of her maximum health, and the duration of Shadow Transformation is extended by 2 seconds. When a game starts, you have 2 realistic options, getting Power Slash or getting Crimson Slash. Crimson Slash is definitely your most general option. It deals damage, has healing, plus a fire rate slow. A pretty good tool to trade with, but if you're looking for a more spicier time in lane, you could choose Power Slash. It deals 3 times the damage, plus the bullet rest helps against their counter attack. I'm just not a big fan of how unreliable it could be. Sometimes you gotta release it early before they go behind cover, and you do 70-ish damage, which is not worth to me when you can just deal and heal a quick 50 with Crimson Slash. But if you believe you can consistently get fully charged power slashes without getting punished, then go for it, bro. Once you get your first skill point, don't use it yet until you unlock your next ability, which will almost always be Flying Slash. With its tier 1 minus 18 second cooldown reduction on it, turning it from 36 seconds to 18 seconds, it lets you be a lot more aggressive and combos kinda perfectly with Crimson Slash. Add 2 boons with both melee lifesteal and spirit strike, you deal 272 damage and heal for 165 health, which is a pretty decent trade if I say so myself. However, a power spike occurs at 5 boons where you can get the second tier of Flying Slash, which gives it plus 20 meter range and plus 40 spirit power for 6 seconds, a completely broken talent to be honest. Like it gives more spirit than the 4.8k spirit investment. So now your combo deals 311 damage and you heal 210 health, plus an additional 257 if you're able to hit the fully charged Power Slash. Then obviously at 6 boons you get your ult, and like every hero except Barrage. That's like your next power spike and can literally like double your damage, plus basically becoming unkillable. After that, as you go through the game, you max out your power slash as soon as you can. Its tier 1 is a 40% movement slow for 3 seconds, good for chasing. Its tier 2 is a minus 4 second cooldown reduction going from 16 to 12 seconds. And at 14 boons, you get power slash tier 3, which gives plus 8 meters range, 150 damage, and its spirit scaling goes from 1.9 to 2.4, which is a pretty huge damage increase. Next, you max Crimson Slash, giving plus 30% melee damage for 4 seconds at tier 1. Not really too useful. 6% maximum HP heal at tier 2, which is pretty good, and at 22 boons, you get tier 3, giving it cooldown reduction going from 16 seconds to 6 seconds, and increases its spirit damage scaling from 0.37 to 1.0. Then you max out your ult, which gives plus 5 weapon damage at tier 1, plus 4 meter movement speed, and minus 25 second cooldown going from 130 to 105 seconds at tier 2. And tier 3 at level 30 gives plus 3 duration for your ult, plus another 30% bullet and spirit res during it. And finally, at 35 boons, you level up the last tier of Flying Slash for its additional charge, as well as being able to target allies, which is fine for escapes, I would say. However, you could run into an issue where you accidentally grapple onto an ally because the guy you were targeting is barely out of range. Now for item order, it gets a bit more complicated because even in the early game, you might have to deviate your build just to counter stuff like Reactive Barrier for CC or Enchanter's Emblem for some Spirit Res, I don't know. So I'll tell you some core early game items, some power spikes for Yamato, and kind of what order you should get your 4.8k investments, plus what you should get late game. Your first item should almost always be Melee Lifesteal. It heals you and gives some melee damage for your Flying Slash. Guaranteed 100 HP whenever you press 2 seems pretty ideal, especially when you're trading early. Next 800 souls, you have a bit of flexibility here. You can get Spirit Strike here or something else for sustain like extra regen, healing right, or rebuttal if you're struggling. Spirit Strike is also guaranteed with your Flying Slash, but if you're getting poked a lot, sustain can be helpful. However, at 2400 souls, you have to get Spirit Strike here because in just 400 more souls, you're able to get tier 2 Flying Slash plus 40 spirit power and range that covers the entire lane. That seems pretty good. But if you already have it though, you can usually get whatever. Extra spirit, extra regen, rusted barrel. After that though, you kind of have two directions you can go from here. Getting gun investment or getting 4.8k spirit investment. What I usually do is get some gun investment like Stalker, Mystic Shot, and then go into Cold Front and do whatever from there. Or you can skip doing that and go for a 4.8k spirit invest with stuff like Cold Front, Mystic Burst, and then improve spirit. And then after that, you can just go 4.8k invest on Vitality or Spirit if you haven't done so already. In case you haven't done both, the order of which you get them varies. But I feel like naturally, if you're winning, get Spirit investment. And if you're losing, get whatever counters the big threat like Metal Skin, Spirit Res, or Counter Spell, whatever really. Finally, after hitting the investments you want, if you're still getting cooked, buy another counter item if you really need to. But your most important late game item to get is Mystic Reverb built onto your Power Slash, making your already powerful ability deal 50% more damage and gives it a ton of lifesteal. And late game after Mystic Reverb, build whatever you want. Some recommendations I have are the cooldown items, Boundless Spirit, Refresher, and Phantom Strike if you want. Just build anything you need according to the game state. To play Yamato is pretty simple. In the laning phase, just do your usual securing, denying, and poking the enemies. When you buy melee lifesteal, trading gets even easier with the guaranteed melee from Flying Slash. But your first power spike in lane is tier 2 Flying Slash with Spirit Strike. Basically, you just win trades with the damage and the healing. Second power spike, and whenever it's up, is your ult. You usually want to try to take fights while your ult is up and then go farm while it's down. Sometimes it can't be like that, like the urn got taken or a walker is being pushed. Just make your best judgment. Your third power spike is when you get tier 3 power slash because you can do tons of damage with that. Next is whenever you purchase Mystic Reverb, that's another power spike. But afterwards though, I feel like you don't get as big of power spikes. There's like 4.8k spirit investment I guess, tier 3 Crimson Slash, and tier 3 Shadow Transformation, increasing your tankiness by a ton. Overall after laning, fight when you're big, preferably with ult off cooldown one and farm when you're small. In team fights, I usually try to be the second one into the team fight. Like after someone initiates, I use Flying Slash to go in onto the high priority target and try to burst them down, or at least try to distract them so my team can do something. And I will use ult when I get focused or someone tries to put CC onto me, or if I need to reset my cooldown so I can kill that person I'm trying to get. Just try to survive as long as you can. Finally, here's some tips and tricks for Yamato. First is a very important trick I like to call the sliding power slash. Simply just dash before inputting 1 to slide across the floor while charging up power slash. Pretty good for surprising your enemies with a fully charged power slash, or being used in the chase to keep up with your opponent instead of standing still. Next is a zipline power slash. To do it, you press Control to get off the zipline and then press 1 to start charging to maintain a significant portion of the zipline speed while using power slash. Mostly used to surprise your enemies with something that's pretty difficult to dodge. And if you didn't know, you can also parry during power slash. As you can see here, if a dumb guy starts charging a huge punch onto you, you can just parry it while also discharging whatever charge of power slash you have. Another important thing, because the game doesn't tell you at all, is that you can cancel flying slash. When you're flying to an enemy, you can cancel it by pressing jump. So if you see you're gonna kill yourself by charging into 5 enemies, just press space and stop going to your death. Final tip is that Yamato has a quote-unquote secret scaling. It says right here in the stats, but it isn't that obvious. Her ammo scales with spirits, so the more spirit you have, the more shots in your magazine. All it really does though is that you never really reload while you're in combat. In the late game, I never really had a moment where I had to worry about my ammo even after spamming so many right clicks. So if you like getting in there up close and personal, dealing good damage and having decent survivability, similar to heroes like Silver, Billy, or Shiv, give Yamato a try. This Japanese crime lord could be what you're looking for summoning the patron and completely taking over New York as the leader of the 7th moon.